Thanks for checking out the Brad and John Show podcast. This segment of the show is brought to you by John Combest's book, Stalking, Harassment, Internet Trolling, A Guide to Recovering and Rebuilding After Online Attacks. It's a great reference if you've ever been the unfortunate target of a social media attack. It's available on Amazon. Just search John Combest. That's C-O-M-B-E-S-T, John Combest, and the book will show up in your search results. Now it's time for another segment of the Brad and John Show. Can you handle it?
It's me, Egbert, once again. I'm the new owner of this station. I went out and hired the best talk radio consultant, Jeff Allen from News Talk STL, and told him to hire the worst talent he could find. Jeff did exactly as I told him. Ladies and gentlemen, here are Brad and John.
John, did you hear the forecast earlier? It's supposed to be 79 today. Is this incredible or what?
It's incredible. It's a good line drying day, Brad, if you want to put any laundry out on the lawn.
Well, not only that, I mean, everything's budding. You're seeing like all the...
It is, yeah. And you know what I always worry about, though, when I see a little budding and I see a little green shoots, I think, man, are we really past the first frost?
I don't think we are. I mean, we've had.
I don't think we are either.
We've had snows in early to mid-April before. Okay.
I've been at Cardinal game. I've been at opening day when it was snowing before, Brad.
Wow, man. You know what? And the Cardinals allowed that to happen? I mean, they're so powerful. I think...
I know. Hey, don't let your anti-Cardinal propaganda slip into this show, Brad. We know how you feel about that.
I used to be a Cardinals fan. I am not anymore, but that's a whole nother story. Okay, couple weird stories. I read this bizarre story about this woman who was killed during a carjacking. And
terrible.
Well, now you don't probably know the one I'm talking about. Do you know the one?
Is it the one that the chick that was dating the soccer player?
No.
And she goes dragged underneath the car. Okay, I was wrong. Go ahead.
That's a local story. Okay, but we'll get to that one. And I want to start off with this one. And this is like terrible stories. All these are terrible stories. Lady is apparently I think the story was she was working the night shift and she was coming home and she got really tired and she was at a gas station. So she got in the back seat of her car and to get a little sleep. Okay. A guy comes along and apparently she had the keys in the ignition or something like that. A guy comes along, steals the car and when they interviewed him, why did he steal the car? He had to get to work,
of course.
He steals the car, goes flying out of the gas station, goes down the street like a crazy man, crashes the car. She is ejected from the car, and I don't think he knew she was in the back seat. She's ejected from the car because obviously she doesn't have her seatbelt on, and she is killed. He breaks both of his legs, climbs out of the car, and starts to crawl away, and some bystanders stopped him and held him for the police. Okay, bizarre story number one. Bizarre story number two. This bi-state bus, there's two bi-state bus shootings, and one of them is, and sort of fascinating, if you watch, you can go on the Channel 5 site and see the video. It's this bizarre shot of this camera inside the bus, and it's shooting backwards. The guy is, in other words, cameras in the front of the bus and it's shooting backwards, and all of a sudden this guy in the back of the bus, and there's only like you can only see one other person in the bus at the time. He gets up, walks down the aisle, in the bi-state bus, pulls out a gun and starts shooting at another guy. Now, the interesting thing is, the article I read, they interviewed the guy who was head of security for Metro, bi-state, whatever you want to call it nowadays, and he said they have this and I have to tell you, the video looked really good. It looked like some decent high-def video. He says they have a new system in all the buses and all the vehicles, which is transmitting the video real time back to their HQ. So
wow, that's good.
They have all this stuff. Okay, that's bizarre story number two. Bizarre story number three. This is the one I'm still not able to figure out. This guy steals a car, cuts off a bi-state bus, gets on the bi-state bus, kills two dudes, and the reason why he killed one of the dudes, because he didn't like the way he looked at him.
He looked at him wrong. That's right. And I don't mean to make a joke about this, Brad, because it's not a joke. But remember, that was the origin of the Kansas City Chiefs parade shooting.
Exactly.
Was one group of young scholars looked at the other group of young scholars the wrong way.
Right. Oh, so now here's the bizarre part of this is he steals a car and cuts off the bus. Okay, so was he on the bus earlier? So in other words, did he just randomly, cut off a bi-state bus, get on the bus, and the guy looks at him, so he shoots him? And that's
something doesn't add up.
I can't get that from the story as to did he have, and see, the other part of this is, and this is, once again, I'm not fanning the flames, but the shooter is black dude. and the shootees are white dudes.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going like, what the hell is this? Now, let's do the Tony Colombo flip test and flip that around, where if it's a white guy who cuts off the bi-state bus and gets on the bus and shoots 2 black dudes, this happened up, I believe, either in Berkeley or in Ferguson, because it happened on Airport Road. And I see, Airport Road's one of those weird roads. I don't know if you know this or not. If you go, Airport Road is right there at 170. If you go east on Airport Road, I believe when you hit New Florissant Road, it magically turns into...
It's Chambers.
Chambers, yes. It turns into Chambers. It's same street, but
I know it well, yeah.
Different name, okay? So, once again, if this were a white dude that got on the bus and killed 2 black guys, we would have the Ferguson meltdown again. You know what I'm saying? Whoa.
Exactly. And for folks who aren't living in the St. Louis area, we're in after the Hazelwood East fight, in which a young white girl had her head smashed into the concrete by a large black girl. We are on day 5 of the city burning. White people for the last 5 days have been setting fire to buildings. Corporations have posted a black square on Instagram to show how they're in alignment and consolidation. And you know what it is, Brad? We're having a reckoning. It's a racial reckoning, Brad. White people will not stop burning down these buildings, Brad.
John is being facetious, but all those of us who live in the St. Louis area, we all know the story that when we tell people we live in the St. Louis area, people always go, "Is that safe? I've heard all about Ferguson. Is it safe? Is the city still standing? Has it been burnt down?" And you tell them, they like sometimes are amazed, like, you got to understand that area of Ferguson is like a mile long and maybe 300 yards wide. It's like the southern part of it is the Quick Trip, which is no longer there, which goes up to north of Chambers, exactly, we just talked about Chambers, into a little bit of Delwood, and that's it.
Hey, listen, I've been claiming for a long time that Calverton Park should have just annexed all that and made it one big speed trap, Brad.
Well,
that's an inside North County joke for anybody that grew up in North County. If you were 1 mile over the speed, if you were going 36 and a 35 in Calverton Park, there was an officer that was about to pull you over on Hudson.
John, I got a 26 and a 20 by Charlac, which was just as bad.
Are you serious?
I swear to God, Charlac. Matter of fact, if you want to hear my Charlac story sometime, it's pretty funny. Charlac is still there, but Charlac no longer has their own police department. It's contracted with St. Anne now. That I got a 26 and a 20. There's a spot on Walton Road where you come up over a hill and you go down the hill, and of course, unless you're driving some car that has almost flat tires, your car picks up speed as you're going downhill. You don't even have your foot on the gas pedal, and it's a long stretch going down a hill, and there's a stop sign at the end of that long hill, and the Charlac police would sit there and either write you for running the stop sign or doing, and so. You know
what now, Brad? You should add that to your resume. I know that you watch a lot of car guys on YouTube, and I know there's guys that try to drive real fast and kind of encourage cops to pull them over. You should put that on your resume, and you could go join that posse.
Well,
it could be called My Posse's on Walton.
Okay, so you want to hear the rest of the story, which is actually sort of funny. Okay, so I'm going to fight this ticket. So I go to the court, which I can't remember what it was, someplace in Charlac. It was like in an old retail building or something like that. And I go before the judge and I plead not guilty. And he says, "Well, how can you plead not guilty?" I said, "I'm pleading not guilty." And he says, "I will give you the option." He says, "I will take you go to trial, or I'll let you go to traffic school." So I said, "Okay, fine, I'll go to traffic school." So here's the traffic reporter going to traffic school. So I go to traffic school, and it's this place. Once again, it's in a strip mall on Page, I believe in Overland. And it's this dude who does traffic school. So we had 2 nights of traffic school. And what this guy does was, he had it's almost like it flashes back to you and I history of high school, where you had the AV cart that came in and there was a TV on it.
Oh yeah.
And in near the end of my school years, there was a video cassette recorder that they put. Oh
yeah, highfalutin.
Right. I mean, now it's like so this guy comes in and he puts a video in the machine, and we're supposed to sit there and watch it. So on day number 2 or night number 2, one of the guys said, he says, before the guy shows up, he says, "Hey, When he comes in and starts the video recorder, he leaves and he goes down the street to a bar. And I go,
nice,
and I'm
very
going like,
good.
I go like, no way. So the second night, sure enough, the dude, who's running traffic school shows up, got the AV card, puts the tape in the machine, starts the machine, and leaves. And a bunch of the people who were in my traffic school with me, they went up the street to rallies and brought back food. One guy is literally got a bottle of Jack that he's in a sleeve. You get the sleeves from.
Of course, you got to have it in the sleeve.
He's got a bottle of Jack, and we're sitting there, and nobody's watching the stupid video except for me. And they're just like cutting up and they're telling jokes and stuff like that. So at the end of the second night, he signs this paper that you have graduated from traffic school, okay? So I go back to court like 2 or 3 nights later, and I go in front of the judge, and the judge says, now, did you successfully complete traffic school? And I said, yes, I did, and I showed him my form. And he says, did you learn anything? And I go, frankly, no. And I said, Your Honor, permission to approach the bench, because you had to stay way back. So he says, walk right up. So I told him, I said, it was a scam. I told him about how it was a ripoff because this guy did nothing but start the videotapes. On the second night, he disappeared. People were going out to rallies and bringing back food, and the guys slamming back a bottle of Jack. And he says, well, I'll take that under advisement. As I left, one of the police officers walks me outside and said, I don't think that was a good move on your part. And I go, why is that? He says, the guy that runs traffic school is his brother-in-law.
No way.
I swear to God. I'm going like, I don't.
Or maybe that is a good thing. Because, we can't assume that they're pals, right? What if they're not pals?
I don't know. It was just, but see.
Hey, at least you were, you know what Gen Z says, Brad? You were speaking your truth.
Well, the thing that gets me on the videos now is, have you heard of this term? They call it auditing. Do you know what I'm talking about with auditing?
Where you would sit in the classroom and listen to it?
Well, that's one audit, but they call this auditing, where what you're doing is you specifically do something to attract the attention of the police, and then when they come over or they pull you over, stuff like that, you pull the old,
Oh, yes, and there's a ton of these on YouTube.
Right.
And I'm sorry to interrupt, Brad, but they're all under the name of public audit.
Yes.
And I remember thinking, what, like, I don't see a guy with a pocket protector and glasses.
Exactly.
What is this? And they will go into, and Brad, there's a guy that goes into St. Charles County municipal governments. Have you seen this guy?
No. What does he do?
He goes, he's from the St. Louis area, and he's got like a rough story. He's been at the center of domestic disputes, and I think it involves like kids or his ex-wife or something like that. But he became like a, quote, free speech or sunshine advocate, and he'll go in and he'll ask. He has a problem with one of the county council people. It's not Joe Brazel, but it's somebody. And he'll go in and he'll ask government employees, and he'll be a borderline we'll watch our language here. He'll be a borderline Richard to them and just see how they act. And I got to say, a lot of county and municipal government employees have clearly been prepped to the idea that there are auditors that will come in and ask this stuff, and they'll be super kind with him, and they'll walk him through, and they'll give him whatever documents. But yes, auditing, and it's a huge deal all across YouTube.
I think it's horrible because of the fact that what they're doing is they're purposely, and here we go again. It's like what I said before. It's like the law of unintended consequence was the body cameras. The body cameras are supposed to show that police are terrible, that they're beating kids over the head that don't deserve it, and they're propositioning women and asking them for sex in return for not giving a traffic ticket. All the crap that we said was going to show up in body cameras, which doesn't, because the majority of the stuff that shows up in body cameras, once again, there are body camera stuff that shows police, not doing their job properly and actually sometimes doing horrible things. But 95% of the body camera video is the stupid criminals that will, shoot you in the face rather than ask you for, a cup of water or whatever the deal is. And
you end up having tremendous respect for the officers. And what I said before when we talked about this, Brad, is the word is restraint. They show tremendous restraint that many of us, if we were put in that same situation, many of us would not have the same impulse control to not smack the guy in the face.
I'm in McDonald's. This is probably, 5-6 years ago. And I'm a gun guy. So this is what I say. Gives gun guys a bad name. I'm in McDonald's and I'm sitting there eating, and I'm I'm in a little counter, and I'm right near where the people walk in to order, and this guy walks in with a big old cowboy revolver, if you know what I'm talking about, a big old hog leg, and he's got this holster, and he's got it tied off to his thigh, the whole bit, and I'm going, dude, give it a rest. I mean, that's so stupid.
It's for attention.
Right, it's for attention. And then there's a guy that did this all the time in Washington, and this is the other thing they do. They walk up and down a highway with a gun strapped to their hip, and this guy was notorious for this. And there's a video out there, you can probably still find it, him on Highway 100 walking up and down Highway 100. And at one point in time, not only were the Washington police responding, but the Franklin County Police were responding, Sheriff's Department, and the State Highway Patrol, and they finally talk to the guy. They get him like an intersection, and he's doing, why are you guys so upset about this?
Did he have a camera with him?
Well, of course he did. That's the whole thing. He's doing this whole thing, and I'm going like, dude, you know what? Give it a rest, because of the fact that the crazy thing about this is you go to any gun class where they teach concealed carry, and they tell you that the idea of concealed carry is that in itself, because of the fact that it gives you the opportunity to not the criminals, or like, let's say if you're in a restaurant and a guy walks in, let's say this guy's got a hog leg, this like guy at McDonald's, and somebody runs in, robs McDonald's, who gets shot first? The guy with the gun in his hip, right?
Absolutely.
Right.
That's the whole point of concealment.
Right. The whole point of concealment is, it's like you see these videos every once in a while of these punks taking on these older gentlemen, and then it turns out the older gentleman is like black belt karate,
and these people do it that you described. I mean, it's another form of public exhibitionism. And they're no different than any other exhibitionists, because they want the attention and they want to garner a reaction from somebody. And literally, they quite literally get the dopamine. They get off on that, Brad.
And the police have a tough enough job without these buttheads, doing all these crazy, well, I'm going to make the police look bad. I'm going to audit him, and I'm going to tell him.
I'll be a hero. I'll be a YouTube
I don't have
hero.
to show you my ID. There's nothing that's Constitution that says I have to show you my ID.
I'm a sovereign citizen.
Right, exactly.
That's their favorite. I'm a sovereign citizen.
Okay.
Hey, we're not going to be sovereign from the FCC if we don't get off the air, Brad.
Thanks for checking out the Brad and John Show podcast. This segment of the show is brought to you by John Combest's book, Stalking, Harassment, Internet Trolling, A Guide to Recovering and Rebuilding After Online Attacks. It's a great reference if you've ever been the unfortunate target of a social media attack. It's available on Amazon. Just search John Combest. That's Combest, John Combest, and the book will show up in your search results. Now it's time for another segment of the Brad and John Show. Can you handle it?